The whole place was started off by Newson Garrett. He came down about 1850 from London, and the time he was down here, the 50 years, he'd built 5 malt houses that make up the complex of Snape Maltings. I came down here to work in 1938, and of course for my O-levels I was taught to carry a comb of malt, which was 12 stone. You didn't carry one, you carried them all day long. So, you know, that was all very, very hard work. That was the barley store. Barley came from out of there, and there was large steeps of water, like swimming bars, right the way across the back there. It was soaked then for a couple of days, water drained off, then it was thrown, and when I say thrown, everything was very, very manual. It was thrown out onto the turning bays, and gradually over 8 days it was turned up to the kiln area, which was this area here. These are men that worked down here from the 1890s. I bet they stood a long while to have their photograph taken. It was all very self-sufficient down here. We had our carpenters, bricklayers and blacksmiths, of course. Mr. Savage, he's the maltster, neckerchief, flannelette shirt, leather belt, corduroy trousers, and he's wearing what we call in Suffolk lodgers. And of course you know the reason, to stop the rats going up your legs. This would be the screening loft. When the malt came off the kiln, it had to be all cleaned up, and so it went through mechanical sieves and whatnot before it went down into stores. The auditorium itself was the kiln area of the Maltings. This was split up into 4 sections and furnaces all underneath. The architects attribute the acoustics to the wood they put in the hall, but my theory is it's got a lot to do with the old brickwork that have been cooked for about 100 years at very high temperatures. Colombian pine roof, and what you can see, there's twice as much wood, gurgeon strip floor, polished and plain, seats 840 when full. The stage, of course, itself is one of the largest stages in East Anglia, 60 foot across by 40 foot deep. We have had 400 on stage altogether. This goes down to form an orchestra pit. We can seat an orchestra of about 60. The stage will also rake off a foot, so we can have a slope on the stage. This is very handy when you have a large orchestra and choir, because the conductor can then see right at the back of the choir. And of course, the acoustics are just wonderful. This, of course, is the foyer and the main entrance. The bull now, the bull used to be up in Britten's garden, but it was given by Princess Margaret Hesse of the Rhine. When the Queen Mum came down to open the Britten Pears school, the first question she asked of Peter was, how did they build the lovely brick ceilings in the school? And he said, well, Bob knows all about it. And so she said, well, I'll walk round with Bob and you follow us. So off we went together. She was wonderful, really. I walked round and we talked about things, and she was so interested in the continuity of the whole setup. And she said, did the men have nicknames down here? And I said, one does come to mind, an old chap we used to call Jolly Fred. And she said he was a happy man. I said, no, he never smiled. And she laughed quite a bit about that as we went round. The wife and myself went digging graves all around Suffolk for a living. We knew Ben very well, and he often said if he died he would like Doris and myself to bury him in the marshes, in the reed beds out here. When he died it couldn't be done because this ground wasn't consecrated, so we thought we'd do the next best thing. We got some canvas and Sue reeds we cut from the reed beds, and I went down and pegged it all down inside the grave. So Ben was buried in the reeds from Snape Maltings.